Hello, YouTube. In part 2 of my Elite Dangerous Beyond series, I'm going to be talking about consequences and lack thereof that I perceive within the game, and I think is something that needs to change. Honestly, the last time I felt that there was any meaningful consequences in the game was around 1.1, 1.2, when scratching the hull of an anaconda would cost you 300,000 credits, and 50 to 100,000, maybe even 200,000 to refuel it as well, to the point where you looked at missions on the mission board and also trade routes and other things like that and went, can I really afford to keep doing this? There was a point at one time early on flying the Anaconda that I was like, I think I'm going to have to switch back to a Python. Now, part of that, I believe, was due to things not scaling correctly, kind of a little bit of a bug. But at the same time, after that point, they made fuel and repair costs virtually inconsequential for most players. And I think they went too far in the other direction, and they've never sought to come back and rebalance that again. As a result, there's very little consequence for losing your ship. It cost you essentially the time it took you to earn the credits. Insurance is pretty forgiving. And where this really comes into play is in the PvP realms, where you have these murder hobo groups out there who do so because the fact of the matter is they just don't have consequences. 6,000 credit bounty for costing somebody a 15 million, 20 million, 50 million rebuy is nothing. This is one of the reasons they do what they do, is because it doesn't. And some of the salt guys out there and stuff like that would ram people with unshielded ships and stuff like that. There was no consequence to them. Now they have talked about introducing a karma system into the game. The question is, these folks will seek to exploit that to where their karma can never go too bad. And then thus still be able to do what they want to do. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I like the idea of them gradually losing their insurance and then increasing their rebuy cost for when they do die, to the point where eventually maybe they lose their ship and they lose it for good. And I would hope that would go as far as to not only losing their ship, but also losing any modules, including engineered modules, that may be on that ship. Once those type of consequences are added into the game, the murder hobo problem will pretty much take care of itself. I guarantee you a lot of them will kiss the game goodbye and leave at that point. Again, these people have the mentality of so long as there's no consequences, they're going to continue to do their engage in the behaviors that they do. But this also extends beyond that. Look at basically minor factions in the game. There's no way to cause a minor faction to be deleted from the game. So you can force a minor faction that has expanded to retract and retreat out of a system, but you can't completely annihilate a minor faction at this point in time. Same thing with power play. Power play originally was set up that if somebody like Archon Delaney was constantly at the bottom of the ranking pool, they could be usurped and replaced by a player group. Sort of how like Yuri Grom was added as a power play faction, but less that it really hasn't happened either, again, due to problems with the way that power play had been implemented that really doesn't coincide itself to failing or allowing somebody to fail completely. And it's almost as though one person had said on the forums, I believe, or Reddit or somewhere, that Frontier is like the ultimate helicopter parents who hover over the player base, not letting them engage in things that they could potentially see as being, quote, destructive, and wants to kind of curate everything. The problem is that you end up with a universe that is, well, as we see today, fairly stagnant and relatively boring, for frank discussion. So it would be nice to be able to see ways that minor factions could be removed from the game due to player activity and organized, coordinated player activity. Maybe the same thing with power play or whatever eventually probably replaces power play as in-game content and things like that go. But that is something that needs to be seriously looked at. And again, karma system, they said that they're working on it, looking at it. No guarantees of if or when such a system would be implemented. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's things like that I hope come sooner rather than later and are implemented in such a way that all not only makes sense, but also kind of helps build a universe that you can fail in. And as it stands right now, I think you have to try very hard to fail at this game. That's just kind of my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, what other topics you'd like to see me address. Next up is going to be talking about the economy, and I guarantee you that's going to probably be a few more minutes than a 5-minute long video, or I may break it up into separate sections so that no video is longer than 5 or 6 minutes. Stay tuned for that next one. Until then, see you later.